Let's go back to Professor Michael Canaris with Loyola. Professor, can you hear me okay now?
I can. Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. First of all, appreciate your time. I imagine you were watching as perhaps the rest of the world was watching this morning when that selection was finally announced. Your thoughts right now?
Was.
Professor, what are your thoughts right now hearing that this is the first American pontiff?
Yes, I am incredibly excited, obviously, shocked somewhat. I think that, we can really take a lot from his name. The name choice is among the most significant that a pope will make. And Leo the 13th was obviously one of the founders of what we call Catholic social teaching. He was a huge supporter of labor rights and union at the dawn of the contemporary world. And so there are some connections, I think, to both Chicago, my native Philadelphia. He was also at Villanova for a while. And so I think that people all around the country will recognize now that the two most influential people in the world are undoubtedly U.S. citizens. And we can even say more broadly Americans in his case, because he spent so much time in Latin America and the North and the South. We are all Americans in the New World. And so he does have certainly a global perspective along with his work at the Dicastery for Bishops.
And Professor, now Pope Leo the 14th, as you said, formerly Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, even though his name was brought up many times in many different circles leading up to this conclave and this entire process as a possible candidate, there was so much talk about the possibility of not choosing a pope from the United States. What can we read into what happened in that room?
Well, I think one of the things is probably the conversations that went on leading up to the conclave. I mean, we know in the case of Pope Francis that one of the interventions, one of the speeches that he gave really electrified the room and launched him onto the stage as a potential pope. And I think that probably what was happening behind the scenes in conversations was first and foremost the holiness of the man. I mean, that is one thing that can't be lost. We have a tendency to sort of read all of this through the American political lens. And of course, with the movie and everything else, there is a lot of sociological unfolding that takes place and conversations and even disagreements. But at the core, this is someone who is called to proclaim the gospel. And so I think people were probably first and foremost moved by his sanctity, his holiness, and then also his managerial capacity. Position in Rome really has a voice in the nomination of bishops around the world, and so that is a very important post.
Some of the early descriptions we have heard so far: kind, humble, pragmatic, smart.
I think I should have gave you two.
Managerial skills,
Okay.
a good administrator as well. Is there anything else that you know about the new pope, formerly Cardinal Prevost, that you can share with us?
No, I mean, I know that I'm quite close with some people in the Pontifical Commission for Latin America. And so he was very involved there, of course. And so he really signaled in those opening comments and prayers a vision of a church that is outgoing, that is missionary, that continues with the synodal path. I mean, for those who are not sort of immersed in this every day like us theologians are, it's a vision of the church that is more dialogical, that recognizes the role of women and the role of the laity to have a voice in the church. And he certainly made nods towards that in his opening comments and his blessing for the work.
And Professor, I know this process actually certainly happened behind closed doors. If you know a little bit more about just what happened today, can you walk us through that process? After that vote is taken, there was a good hour, 90 minutes before the new pope came out and greeted the masses. What happened during that time?
Yeah, that's very common. So that in that intervening period between the white smoke, which shows that the election landed on a pontiff, they're taken to a room they call the Room of Tears, and there's three cassocks in there in white, right, in small, medium, and large, sort of. And so they prepare, but they also have to wrestle for a few minutes with the weight that has fallen on their shoulders. I mean, think about Pope Francis. When he was elected, he never set foot in Argentina again, including when he was buried in the city of Rome. And so this person's life is changed forever in those few moments. And so they have to grapple with that themselves, prepare some comments to come out, get dressed, those sorts of things, and then, of course, come out and greet the crowd, greet his new church as the Bishop of Rome.
All right, Professor, thank you so much for joining us again. Michael Canaris with Loyola University.